Welcome back to another episode of the Cody Tucker Show. As always, I'm your host, Cody Tucker. Today, joined by a very special guest, winner of Survivor Season 43, Mike Gabler. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Cody. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Dude, absolutely. So, I have been a diehard Survivor fan since it started, which I'm 29, so I think it started when I was either like 6 or 7, and have watched every single episode. It's like a family thing, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Me too.
dude, I mean, I know it's been a little while since, the season, but we're in the middle of one right now. Dude, you did such a good job. It is
Thank you.
insane, man.
1 year ago this week, I think Tuesday was 1 year to the day when we stepped onto that island.
God, that's man. So, I mean, I have to just ask, I mean, how do you, whenever you're going to be on the show, so like you get the whatever notice it is that, hey, you're on, when does it like set into you that, oh, I'm on Survivor? Like, is it when you get on the island, when you see Jeff Probst? Like,
Yeah, it's you get so it's a long process to get on the show, right? So
yeah,
I submitted, I put together a 3-minute video of, which is kind of tough to put your whole life into 3 minutes, but you got to do it. And if you Google Gabler Survivor, my audition video will pop up in there somewhere. 3 minutes of power. It's pretty funny. I've got my goats running around. It's pretty cool. But I sent it in, and I was doing it because I'm a fan like you are. And it was a bucket list thing for me. I told my wife and my girls before I turned 50, I would apply for Survivor. And I was like 49 in 10 months. And my wife's like, well, it's getting about that time if you're going to do it. So I put together this video and we sent it in. And then lo and behold, they called me. But that was all during COVID.
Yeah.
So they had canceled a season and they had a bunch of players they'd already vetted, basically 42. And they were like, instead of putting them to the back of the list, we're going to keep them to the front of the line. But don't worry, Gabler, we like you, and we're going to call you back in a year. And of course, that was really hard to hear because I was really excited, and I'd gone through the process, and they were like, you're going to be on the show. But they went ahead. Everything happens for a reason. And a year later, August, they called me up, and they were like, all right, you still interested? And I'm like, absolutely. So kind of went back through a little bit of the process. And then that was in like October, November. But I didn't get the official call that I was going to be on the show until February of the year I was going, like February 20th, I think it was. And then I basically had a month and a half to pack. But knowing that I was even on their radar, I started, I was training hard. I was doing all this stuff to get ready, reading puzzle books, doing all kinds of different things to be ready, because that's what you do, right? You prepare, and that way, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And then whenever it happened, I was ready. So, but it really, I don't think it hit me that I was on Survivor until the Zodiac hit the beach and we jumped out and Jeff is standing there with a wall of cameras behind him. And we're just like, I'm like, oh my God. Cause we weren't allowed to talk to anybody in Rosa beforehand. And there's all these really cool looking people. I'm looking at Carla, I'm looking at Owen, I'm looking at everybody. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
I can't even talk to them. And then you're on the beach standing shoulder to shoulder. And it's like, and you got like 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, me and your name. And she's like, Ellie. I'm like, me and Ellie are going to do the swim. And you and who are you? Janine and Mariah, you're going to do the key thing. And Owen and Sammy went and got those giant boxes. So, and then it all starts. It starts and it's unbelievable then.
So it's that fast.
Oh yeah. You show up on the beach. Jeff introduces us, like, hey, you in the Def Leppard shirt, and they know you already because we've already done the interview process, right? But it's like, who are you? And you're like, hey, I'm Cody Tucker. I'm out here from Longview, Texas, and blah blah blah. So, and then you literally are doing that, but the game starts, so you're careful. You're careful with what you're saying because you're just like,
right.
Everybody's listening. Everybody's making first impressions here. And then you have 3 minutes to put yourself into teams about who's going to do what, and then you go.
God, that has to be like the adrenaline rush has to be insane.
It was so crazy. It was just really crazy.
So preparing, I mean, I know like reading puzzle books, things like that, but strategy. I mean, how could you prepare strategy? You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to be able to just read the room, it seems like, more than anything.
You absolutely you got to read the room. You got to know the temperature, and you got to it's fluid. It's changing always. So you got to always be watching it. So I did prepare. So I came up with the Gabler strategy based on about a dozen books I read and outlined. And I put and I also, as a huge Survivor fan, as soon as I was even in the, as soon as they contacted me, I got a clipboard, a legal pad, and I started with season 1, and I rewatched every episode in a row.
Yeah.
And I wrote down notes where, if like every time somebody said something profound, in one of their confessionals, or every time there was an awesome move or a terrible move.
Right.
I wrote it down. So like, don't do that, do this, do that.
Yeah.
So that, and then I put those notes together, and I had about a 10-page condensed bullet sheet that I studied. I took it with me everywhere. In between surgeries, I was doing that, and everything. I was just really working on my strategy because, Survivor's been around a long time now in America, right? It's new in other places in the world. They've got it in South Africa, Australian Survivor's amazing. And, but here we're on season 44, and we've been going for over 20 years. And the sophistication of the game and the game play is really evolved. Yeah. And, threat level management is essential to playing Survivor. And, I don't know if you're obviously watched last night.
Oh, yeah.
So Franny, who I was a big fan of, I still am a big fan of Franny's, but she just was too damn good.
See, that exactly. You're painting a target on it. It's almost like you have to, it's probably easier said than done, but you did it. Like, start getting, some steam and then go, okay, press the brakes. Like, I gotta, the Gabler technique. And she should have done that, but how do you not go full speed? And if you're just that good, you're that good, but
she's that good. I think, it was so tough because we didn't, the episodes are so short, and I've heard a rumor that they're going to make them longer next season.
That would be great.
I think they need to do it because there's such great players out there, and I'd love to see a little bit more of the gameplay, going on.
And so like, I know whenever I've gone back and watched older seasons, it's so much more slow, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's slow, like you're getting to know the people way more in the earlier seasons. Like, I feel like there's still people on this season that I don't know anything about.
100%. There's like 4 or 5 main characters that I know pretty well, and everybody else, I don't know much about them. And, I would have liked to have known more about Kane, for example, before he went.
Yeah.
He looked like an interesting guy. It seemed like he was playing pretty well. But I would have liked to have seen more because, when these seasons are so short, or the episodes are so short right now, and I think that was that's probably the only problem I really see. The main problem with the short season is that you start off with the aftershock of Tribal from the night before.
Right.
Then you have a little bit of gameplay in the morning. Then you have a challenge for reward or immunity or both. And then you go to Tribal Council. And you don't get to see the other 23 hours or 20 hours of existence on that island with the other people. And I think that's something that they're kind of missing a little bit because it's fun to watch. I watched Australian Survivor season 8, Heroes versus Villains. It just aired a couple months ago. It just finished. And it was really awesome because you get to go deep on those players. There were some really interesting characters on that show.
Yeah. Well, see, I think actually last season with your season, there was a lot of like flashback backstory stuff.
There was a lot,
which I liked. And I know, I maybe am too much of a Survivor nerd, but I read like Reddit message boards of Survivor just to see. I'm curious what people think. And a lot of people didn't like the flashbacks. And I don't understand that. I thought it was great. Like, I want to know way more about the people on the show, not just see them compete, see that, like, I want to know, like, what is this person's deal? Where'd they come from? Like, Jesse wouldn't have stood out as much if we didn't know any of that backstory. I mean, obviously
Carla,
a great player.
It's like, that's, Ellie, everybody that's got their, because you kind of want to know who, because knowing the people and knowing their backstory allows you to better understand the game that they're playing.
Yeah.
And as a fan, you get to understand the moves, and you can also predict some of the moves and say, oh, their personality, this is going to be interesting because they're headed for something together. Right. Like they did some backstory on Carolyn.
Mm-hmm.
And on 44. And I love Carolyn. She's one of my favorite characters.
Same. Yeah. I didn't think I would think that, at the very beginning, but man, it's hard not to be a fan of Carolyn.
You gotta love Carolyn. She's a wild wingnut, and I mean that in a good way.
For sure.
Just as great spirit. She's been through a lot in her life, and come out the other side stronger, smarter, and you got to cheer for her. I'm cheering for her. I'd like to see her win and be able to do better in challenges. I think that's her Achilles heel right now. Yeah. Her and Lauren both need, they're both playing great games, but both of them struggle physically, which I'm going to call it the Jesse syndrome.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Jesse
is a savage game player, awesome Survivor guy, but when his threat level got up high, he needed to win a challenge or, to be able to compete in one of them. And the fact that he didn't, just like Franny last night, once somebody wins a couple challenges or does something really big in the game, they're like, okay, that's nice. And I think it's a great move. And I was cheering for Franny right when she won that last one. I go, ooh.
Yeah. See, I've been kind of thinking that for, I was like, man, they need to get her out. Not that I wanted her gone,
of course,
but just thinking, man, like, and then having, a guaranteed vote on the jury is got. I mean, how much does that play in, like, of kind of jury guessing, of being like, okay, this person probably has 4 people, maybe 5. Like, I mean, you didn't really have to worry about it too much because you were.
I was in with a lot of people, but it is a factor. And, Matt being there at Ponderosa, every night, because there's Brandon, it was all guys until last night. So Franny's back there, but it was like, so Brandon, Kane, and Matt, and, they're talking about the game, they're talking about it. And having, somebody there that's certainly a homer for Franny would help her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could help her out. And she, it was the best thing to happen to Franny was when Matt went home, because together they were too much of a target.
For sure.
And I think she was playing an emotional game a little bit as well as the game itself with him. She was looking out for him. He was looking out for her. But they also were a target as a pair, as power couples always get targeted. So to see him go out, I was like, Franny could go all the way and win this thing. And I thought she, but I guess last night, I thought her winning that reward challenge was, it's so tough because I thought she picked the people she picked to go on the reward challenge, the moms basically, Carolyn, Lauren, and Heidi.
Yeah,
I thought it was incredibly smart of her the way she picked those people.
Yeah,
because she could have galvanized that and saved herself and even flipped the game a bit. I think where the trouble came in was with Carson, Yam, and, mainly Carson and Yam. Danny was always going to be kind of Danny, but she didn't need to get everybody. You just got to get the majority. And she did good with that, but I think Heidi flaked on her.
Yes.
And Heidi's I think Heidi could be, Heidi's playing a good game, but everybody knows it. And also the way Heidi leaks information that's given to her, that's a problem. On the island, when you're there and, I go, hey, Cody, I heard this. And all of a sudden I go walk across the beach to somebody else and somebody tells me, hey, Cody just told me this. And I'm like, dude, I just told him that. So
that's
Heidi right now.
But God, I mean, is that avoidable? You know, I mean, as far as like, because you're gonna have to spill some of the information to get somebody on your side. But then how do you know that this person isn't gonna just go run and tell? I mean, I guess that's
how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think you got to be careful with how you share information because like me and Cass were really close and we shared a lot of information together. And we were kind of in the middle bottom for a while there. And we shared a lot of information. And why me and Cass became allies in post merge to the very end was I could trust her and she could trust me with information. And I knew when I tested her a couple of times, and I'm sure she tested me, where I knew a piece of information was true, and I would ask her an open-ended question like, "Hey, what do you think's going on with Noelle or something?" And she would then volunteer information to me, and I knew it was true. So I'm like, okay, she's giving me good information. That's somebody I can trust and go further with. And that's where our alliance really began. We had the Underdog Alliance, which was me, Cass, and Owen. And we were going to try to get to the final three together, and it turned out we did.
Yeah. I mean, I think the playing from the middle bottom is actually probably the best place to be.
In the modern era, I would agree.
Yeah. Like, I mean, because you definitely don't want to be at the top, immediate threat. And if you're at the bottom, I mean, yeah, you definitely can. If you can get out of it, then you've obviously made a lot of big moves and that'll help you. But kind of being the person that can just sneak their way in, but have still built up a resume, which that's the problem is with a lot of people, if they are kind of sneaking into the final, is that they don't have a resume to show for it, which I think is the guarantee of why you won is because you were able to make it and then say blank, 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 I should win this. And it,
Yeah, along the way, obviously when I threw out Ellie's name and at the merge feast and then targeted her, my nemesis at that point, we're good friends to this day, but it's like, in the game we had a rift and we had to play that way. But she, whenever your name gets mentioned, post-merge especially, the most important day is day one post-merge.
Okay.
And luckily, I was immune because my team won.
Yeah,
and we got to go and that's that day, that's the day when you go, hey, what about Cody? And it's like you. Like, what about, Noelle, James, whoever's name gets brought up, everybody's kind of new. And all of a sudden, it fractures, and it's like there's a James and James group going for James, group going for Ellie,
right?
And those are two names that kind of once they're put out there, they kind of stay out there and they kind of keep going. So being immune on day one, really good if you can do it.
Yeah.
And the only thing better is winning the very first immunity challenge because while those two, the three tribes have come together into the Gaia tribe for us. You're still kind of in fracture mode. Ellie got voted out. James was kind of mentioned. Ryan got his name down. Cass got her name down. Owen did. And then everybody's still trying to figure out battle lines. And by winning that, the grip challenge, the first immunity, it kept me, again, out of everybody's list because I wasn't eligible.
Right.
But at the same time, my threat level after being – the merge feast, I was a pretty dominant player that episode. And then winning that individual immunity, and breaking some records. I was like, Mike Gabler came up, and that's why I was like, I need to go deep underwater for a couple days. Just be quiet on the beach. Go with whatever. Don't do too much. Because honestly, if I would have, I tried my hardest, but if I would have won another immunity challenge or really would have forced a vote out right after that, people would have obviously been like, well, Gabler sure is getting a lot of power in this game. Maybe we should target him. And I was very mindful to keep that threat level under control.
Yeah. So that to me that's like kind of the formula for winning now is just keep your try to make the moves that will pad your resume, but stay real low about it, which
It's
man,
such a fine line, right, Cody?
yeah,
Because you gotta if you're not playing the game, you're gonna be dead weight at the end. You're probably not even gonna
mhm,
make it to the end. Honestly,
right,
nobody carries anybody that far anymore. You have to be kind of at least paddling your own. But if
yeah,
if you can't say, hey, I was part of this blind side. I did this in immunity. I was in this alliance. I was in that, and I helped with this and blah. If you don't have a story to tell, then you're just taking up real estate at the final three. And nowadays, like if you look at my final three with Owen and
yeah,
Cass,
right,
all of three of us had very good stories and
yeah,
different stories to tell.
for sure. I think it was the best final three in a long time. I mean, if not ever. Like, I could actually, before the final tribal council, it was a toss up to me. I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
who it's gonna be. And then I mean, you did, I think, probably the best final tribal ever. Like,
Thank
it's
you.
dude,
Thank
no
you.
problem. But as far as like being able to just succinctly dictate this is why I should win. eh, I mean, they all said it too, didn't they? Like that you basically won it for yourself in that tribal.
Right. I
I
mean,
mean,
if I had Owen's story, if
yeah,
I had Cass's story, and I was able to tell it as well as I told my own story,
right.
I think I could have won with either one of their stories because they
Yeah,
were all very good stories.
yeah,
And I think he's such an awesome guy. I mean, Owen's a
yeah,
dear friend, and he's actually coming to Idaho to visit me next month, and
yeah.
I can't wait to see him. We're gonna go river rafting.
Nice.
So we'll post some of that stuff on Instagram. I'm on Gabler Mike at Instagram. I got the blue check or whatever on there. But
Yeah,
Owen, he was just too self-deprecating at the final three. He was in there.
yeah,
He was like, almost like I don't deserve to be here, kind of a
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
which hurt him. And then Cass, kind of needed to read the room a little better. She was really confrontational.
Yes, yeah. I do
And
remember that.
it
Thinking
was
just,
kind of a little
oh,
cringy on that, where it was like, you just got to read the room. But she had an amazing story, and
yes,
so did Owen. They both had terrific stories. They played phenomenal games, and
hmm,
should be very proud and are very proud of their games. And I'm very
yeah,
proud of them. In fact, it's kind of like to go up against them
hmm,
and makes the win that much more exciting to me because they were real contenders.
yeah,
They were hard players. I mean, both of them were challenge beasts, were strategy animals.
hmm,
They were wonderful people.
yeah,
They really are great folks, and I'm so proud to have been able to sit next to them at the end. But I remember I was sitting there at the end, and one of the questions Carla asked me at the
hmm,
jury was, and this I don't think this was on the TV edit, but
okay,
she goes, Gabler, why are you there and not me? And because she just got sent
yeah,
home like a day two before,
yeah, yeah,
and I looked her right in the eye and I said, Carla, when we got to 7, I had 3 ways to get to 3, and you had 2. When we got to 5, I had 2 ways to get to 3, and you had 1. I had one more way to get to 3 than you did, and that's why I got here. And it's just because I was in ride or die. I was in a bunch of alliances that
yeah,
nobody
yeah,
really appreciated until the end, which was nice because whenever I called it out and I was
hmm,
like, raise your hand if you're in this or raise your
yeah,
hand if you're in that. And
yeah,
everybody did it. And I'm like, yep. Remember that, Cody? Remember me and you? Remember when
yeah,
we were doing that together? So I think
yeah,
that was helpful in people not only understanding my story and
hmm,
my journey, but validating my position
yeah,
and my points.
yes, exactly. I think that's like what the jury is 100% looking for is like, tell me why, like, you tell me why you beat me. Now,
Yeah,
obviously, don't do it in like a arrogant way,
yeah,
but tell me, like, if I'm gonna give you $1 million, I need to know that you're the person that deserves it, and I'm sitting here and you're sitting there, so why are you there? And yeah, I think just destroyed that final tribal. So, I mean, how much time are you just like going through what you're gonna say, pre-tribal,
Great question.
or do you have to just kind of go, I don't know what they're gonna ask, so I need to just shoot from the hip and hope for the best?
So, being older, I'm
Mhm.
I'm the second oldest winner in Survivor history, but being
Yeah.
older has its advantages.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of, I work on a team.
Mhm.
I work in the operating room with heart teams, with surgeons and cardiologists, anesthesiologists, and we do a lot of speaking, and you have to be very clear and concise with your communication in there. And I think that skill that I've been honing for 20 plus years really helped me out when it came to explaining my value proposition, if you
Yeah.
will.
Right.
And that, the day of the final day, we woke up, the three of us. We had that brunch, which was awesome because my brain was not working well because Owen and Cass went on that steak,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I did not. So I was, when you're so hungry, it's hard to think straight. But we got to get a good meal in us, which helped me out, helped us
Mhm.
all out, all of us out. We all got to have a good meal that morning, and then everybody practiced a little bit. And we all went off by ourselves to kind of think
Mhm.
about what we were going to do. You know, I took a nap. I
Yeah.
knew what I was going to talk about. I didn't. I just was like, I went over things in the game that I had been present for,
Mhm.
and I was surprisingly calm and just going to shoot from the hip. And you can kind of see it wasn't scripted. I mean, those were just
Yeah.
as the questions come in, you respond back to them.
Yeah.
And I had, I was able to find the answers and that resonated with
Mhm.
the jury, so that when they heard them, they were like, I'm like, I played a relationship game. That was my
Mhm.
game. I have a relationship. I have a genuine relationship with each one of you guys up here. That is how I was able to get in all these alliances. All these alliances gave me information that not only
Mhm.
kept me safe, but allowed me to be effective and to get me deeper in the game. And oh yeah, I also, obviously you help out around camp and you do things like that, but I won individual immunity. I participated in all these other immunities and blah blah. So and then I always love to throw a little bit of humor in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think it's helpful. And I never even said Alec Gabler until Final Tribal Council.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But
No.
that was my strategy. So basically,
Yeah.
I even in Final Tribal, I said, like an alligator, you by the water's edge, you strike, and then you submerge. That's how I manage my threat level. And then the next time I said it, I said, like an alligator, and they
Yeah.
were like, they thought that was pretty funny, and it was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
No, if you can get people to laugh, you can get them to do
It's
almost
helpful.
anything.
I
Yeah,
mean,
for
because
sure.
if you're making good points, and they're like, yeah, that's pretty good, and they're like, yeah, he did that. He did that. I was
Yeah.
there. I remember that. Because it was pretty. It was they went in there. I probably had maybe one vote that I was sure about going into
Okay.
final tribal.
That's what I was. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, how on a scale, to out of 100, like, what percent confident were you that like I could win this? Like, what would you
I
say?
was confident that that I had played a good enough game,
Mhm.
and if I could tell my story, I would win. And so
Okay.
I was very confident. I think Owen was confident, and I think Cass was confident. I think we
Yeah,
all were very confident we had played, and everybody did play a winning game. They were
for
all
sure.
they didn't accidentally get there. Everybody got there on their own merit. But the only vote I knew that I thought I had was Sammy's, because
Okay.
I had helped Sammy, and I kind of tipped him off the night he played his shot in the dark.
Right. Right.
At the last second, we had a code word, coyote.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, if I ever said coyote or he said coyote to me,
Uh,
that means things all of a sudden changed and you're on the bubble and you need to play your shot in the dark. So right before
okay.
tribal council, I got called to do a confessional.
Uh-huh.
And right when I got back, they were basically putting us into lockdown, which is what they do, where you're not allowed to talk. And then you get on a boat and you go across the ocean to
Mhm.
the island where final tribal is, and you're
Mhm.
still not allowed to talk until you're in final tribal council. But the problem is
Okay.
I'm like, oh no. When I got back, we weren't sure who the vote was going to go on, but it wasn't going to be Sammy. And then all of a sudden he was being mentioned, but I thought he was safe before my confessional. And when I came back, everybody had turned, and I'm like, shoot. So I go up to Sammy and I'm like, good luck tonight. Good luck tonight, Coyote. And I patted him on the shoulder and walked by, and he was like looking at me, and I'm like, I'm not allowed to say anything at that point. You're just like, I wasn't even really supposed to probably say anything about that because we were coming back into lockdown, but I promised him I would. And that's why he knew to play his shot in the dark. And had he won that shot in the dark, that would have scrambled some things up pretty interestingly.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's what shot in the dark looks like.
Oh, that's it.
That's it, buddy.
That's awesome.
That is it. So I got that guy. Came back with me from the island.
That is awesome, man. God, that's so. Before you go, you have this idea of what Survivor's going to be like because you've watched every season. When you go, like, what is something that just doesn't translate to TV where you're like, wow, I was not expecting, this.
The hunger.
Yeah, that's got to be rough.
The hunger is something that you cannot prepare for. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, you may fast for a weekend, whatever. Yeah. That's not the same thing, dude. No. It's totally different. I mean, the first 4 or 5 days out there, the first week out there is absolutely the worst. It is. Okay. It is such a punch in the face. It's almost indescribable how rough that first week is because you're eating, you're normal, you go into there, and it was snowing in Idaho when I left for Fiji. Yeah. I get to Fiji, it's 105 degrees with 95% humidity. And look, it's kind of like Longview, Texas in August, okay?
Yeah.
Imagine sleeping outside in Longview, Texas in August. There's 3 kind of ants in Fiji. They all bite. There's mosquitoes. There's sand fleas and no-see-ums. And when you first get there, because you've been eating, you're sweating out salts, sugars, and minerals, right. And you're delicious. And the bugs, I had bug bites on my bug bites.
Yeah,
and you've got, and they had spiders. There's a lot of spiders too, big spiders, fast, big spiders.
Yeah.
And I got bitten on top of my head. I had this weird oozy thing that was like I was kind of like trying to squeeze out the goo. It was gross. So you get there, and you're just like. You're covered in bug bites.
Yeah.
You're exhausted. You're freezing because at night it's raining. You're wet all the time. Mm. And my feet were starting to rot because I wasn't letting enough air get to my feet because I was protecting them from bugs, but they were never drying out. Right. And they started to get some jungle rot in there. But then, the dehydration was another big thing because we had a well.
Yeah.
But, you pick the plywood top off the well, and then you scrape off kind of the goo on the top with your ladle, and then you get down to the cleaner water. You fill up your cast iron pot. Yeah. Then you go make a fire. You boil it. You let it cool. You split it up 6 ways, and you drink it and repeat. We need to be drinking 10 times that much water a day. And eventually we just started drinking out of the well. And we just said, hey, if we get any bugs, it'll take a couple weeks before it gets bad. And by that point, we'll be off the island. So we'll just take our chances. But we had to because dehydration. Yeah. Look at Carson on 44 right now. How he was throwing up last week?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was dehydration. It's dehydration that's getting him.
Yeah.
And, so that part is very difficult. And also, when you're starving, your brain is not like the brain that we're using right now, Cody. It's,
Yeah,
it's at best half of your brain is working, and you're like, I'll have a conversation. I'm like, did I say that out loud or did I think that?
Yeah, the delirium has to almost like a cabin fever mixed with dehydration, and the paranoia. I mean, the paranoia's got everything just amplified. That's miserable.
Big time. And we've all became friends out there, but you start off, you're just a bunch of strangers. It's like going to a new high school and you're just like trying to be in with the cool kids, but you're just like, I know that everybody feels this way where you're like, am I one of the cool kids? Am I safe tonight? Am I okay? Am I all right? But, it's really exhausting because you're an avatar in the game and the game is 24/7. So if me and you want to get up and in the middle of the night go look for an idol or throw rice in the ocean or eat or do, you can do whatever you want. The game is organic. It's based on players and it can go any direction that you personally want it to go. And that's what's so wild is the game could turn on its ear in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and just seeing like the wrong two people pair off to go do something, maybe, I mean, it might just be something mundane, like getting firewood, but in your head, you're like, why did they just walk away? Like, is that something that happens like just every time?
I still do it to this day. Okay.
I was going to ask you that too. Yeah.
Where are they going? What are they saying? That's interesting. It's like you're looking. It's already. It's going to be a while.
I was curious about that. Yeah.
Look at Jamie last night.
Yeah.
She literally told the truth about her idol going with Kane.
He's bad at telling the truth. I'll say that.
Yes. She's bad at telling the truth, and she also, anytime there's a miscommunication. Communication is a two-way street, and the message being sent is not always the message being received. Right. And it's 51% each person's responsibility to make sure that they make that message. So if I'm talking to you, Cody, and I say, hey, my idol went home with Kane, cool. And I'm like, okay, I sent that message. What message did he get? And you're like, I think this is a BS story. And I'm walking away like, oh, it's all good. I did my thing. Yeah. No, it's not. You have to be like, she should have been like, look, here's my bag.
Yeah.
Here's everything. I do not have this.
That's what I was confused about. Like, why not? Like, because how she's saying it seems like she's lying. Like, just me watching it, I'm like, oh, she's lying. Obviously, we have like, the hindsight to know that she's telling the truth.
Yeah.
But why not go just one extra step and be like, hey, look through my stuff. I don't care. I'm telling you the truth. I mean, bizarre.
It was. That's probably going to bite her, and it's already biting her a little bit.
But it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, and also maybe think about your story. Now, granted, she's starving and tired, like we said, so the brain isn't exactly Jamie's full brain going, but.
Yeah.
Before you come out with a story that sounds as preposterous as it is, think about, do you even need to tell that story? There was a rumor about her having an idol. A rumor. Yes. Now that Kane's out, maybe do take a page out of Carson's book, and instead of telling them the truth, which is unbelievable, maybe you go, I'm glad that Kane left because he was spreading a rumor that I had an idol. And here's my bag. I don't have anything. I have nothing.
Yeah.
So that you just you have creative license with the game to tell your story however you need to tell it so that your message being sent is the message being received because not one person, not one, believes her. And if I wasn't on the couch knowing every piece of this puzzle, I wouldn't believe it either. At face value, it does not sound like a logical, realistic story.
No. I mean, it sounds to me sounds somewhat logical. Like, oh, we think there's a knowledge of power. I'm going to do a little shuffle. I kind of get it, but just explain it better or don't explain it at all. Just pretend like none of this ever happened.
If you can't explain it very well, don't do it. But I'll tell you what, to mis-explain it or partially explain it is a detriment to your game. And she certainly suffered and then last night at Tribal, when she was telling that story and Kane was like
stone face.
I thought he would wink or do something. I did too.
I was like, Kane, come on, man, help her out a little bit. Jeez. Like,
the jury, they're pretty strict with the jury not to interact with the contestants. But I was like, as soon as she's like, I gave it to Kane and it left the game, so I don't have it anymore. And she looks over at Kane and Kane's like, and I'm like, oh, that really makes her story come apart. And she should have probably been perceptive enough to go, that didn't go well. This didn't go well. They are probably not buying this. I've got more damage control to do than I thought, because you have to make sure that they don't think you have that idol, because they'll play it. But they put votes on her last night and she didn't play it. So hopefully when she gets back to camp, next week, and she's like, I told you I don't have it. See, I don't have it.
Yeah.
If she doesn't vet that story next week, although Heidi's got a big target on her,
very
big target on her, and she's rubbing people the wrong way too. I can tell that she's, what we're seeing as fans, we can tell she's rubbing people the wrong way. And now I know for sure if they're showing this much of it to us, there's that much of it back at camp.
Right. Well, and she's taking away some of the heat from Danny, who in my mind should be going after him.
I would have got Danny out last time.
Yeah, I think Franny definitely a good person to get out, just strategically, whatever. But Danny needs to go. If I don't think anybody really has as much of a shot. Just in my mind, I think
he's who I've got to pick to win right now.
Me too. I have him. I had Carson for a while, and then I kind of started tapering off.
Yeah, yes. I think Carson's stock. He was really dehydrated. He was really feeling it. He won that individual immunity. So his stock last week was way down. It's back up now, but it's not. He's kind of back even. Franny's stock was through the roof. That's the problem. She just got to be too good. Danny is, but he's got a Heidi shield.
Yes. Yeah, he kind of should want to keep her around, maybe.
Yes.
In my mind, I'm thinking like, man, this woman Heidi is taking away so many of
those are the Danny votes. If Heidi wasn't there, those are going to him. I'd probably go after, if I was Danny, I would probably try to get in with take advantage of Carolyn's anger and go after either Yam or Carson next.
Yeah, I think she would be way more likely to go against old Jam. I think she likes Carson. I think that
both Carson and Jam voted for Franny.
Right.
And I think they severed that relationship with Carolyn.
She was pissed about that.
She's pissed, as she should be.
Yeah.
Carolyn is the most underrated player of the season, for sure.
Without a doubt.
She is way smarter than they're giving her credit for. She has an immunity idol in her pocket. And, and people trust her, and everyone loves her. She's my number 2 pick to win the game.
Me too. Yeah, I think that she's perceived as such a non-issue.
Yeah,
that makes her an issue, because she is actually doing something. I mean, it'd be different if she was just doing nothing, and but she could sneak her way into a pretty good spot.
She is playing well. Her only weakness is her physical challenges.
How much does that go into consideration as far as compared to outwit, outplay, outlast? Like, how much is you never won an immunity challenge or reward challenge? Like, does that really sway a vote?
I think it does. I think if
I didn't today,
if I didn't have one, I won one individual immunity and I broke the record. That helped.
Yeah.
That was because really what I think jury members are looking for is a balanced representative for the season, and something that they can say, if I hadn't won any challenges, say I didn't do fire, which I got the record for too.
Yeah.
And I didn't do the grip challenge and didn't win that and break that record. And I didn't get the merge feast. And I was just like, then people all start to go, did you just were such a non-threat, non-player that you just ended up here on the bench at the end. And that's a hard thing to do. I think you have to represent. And if I was Jesse, because Jesse was not good at challenges, but he was in several of them, like the water challenge, the last gasp. He lasted over an hour in that, which was very respectable.
For sure.
And I think that if, by him he didn't win, but if he could have just done a little, I think his gameplay was phenomenal.
Yeah.
His needing to win though, at the end, after he did he led the I mean, me, Owen, and Cass were in very much part of that, the Cody blindside, because we had to vote with that. We had to put on our acting shoes and act our guts out to make sure that everybody was believing it.
Yeah.
I actually tried to give Cody a little bit of a tip off as well, to play his idol, but Carla had convinced him that, and then our acting was so good that he was like, yeah, I'm just going to sit on it. And then Jesse lowered the boom. And then the next day he lowered the boom again with Dwight's idol, which was really Janine's idol.
Yeah.
And after two in a row like that, what he had to do, not needed to do, he had to do was win the next immunity.
I know. Yeah. That was a real slip up. Like, where you're just like, man, you're this close. Because, I mean, well, obviously he had no chance of beating you in fire. I mean, my God. But yeah, that was,
because he had to win that, because even if he didn't go to fire, say he put me and Owen against each other, or me and Cass against each other, whatever he chose, it would have been he would have still, if he was able to tell his story, he would have had a very good shot. And I was prepared to go against, because I had one way was Owen and Cass, and the other way was Jesse and Cass, and I even thought about for a short time going with Carla, but Carla was too good, too savvy, and I told her to her face, because she asked me. This wasn't on the TV show; it was out on the edit, but it was in the rain when they were at the reward challenge, and where Cody and those guys were, and Owen were at the coffee and donuts challenge. Which, if you have to lose a challenge, that's one to lose, because when you're so hungry and you eat, I mean, imagine me and you right now if we drank a thermos of coffee and a box of donuts.
Yeah, I mean, that some of those rewards, I'm just like, God, that I mean, obviously you're going to want anything, but that is not the one I'd be wanting to have.
And you wouldn't really be able to help yourself if you were there. You'd be eating them, because, and then you saw Cody. I mean, really, it probably blew up his game, because Cody was playing very smart, and then he was so sugared up, so insulined up, so everything. Yeah, and he just wasn't thinking, because we had a code word as well, kind of a thing, and I was like, you're playing your idol night, right, Cody? And he was like, yeah, bro, yeah, I'm playing my idol. I'm like, hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. Say it. And he was like, hogs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. And I go, okay, you're playing it. But then he changed his mind. And when that happened, everything else fell apart. But when, Jesse, when you bring your threat level to 11, right? It's that high, and you're down to 5, you have to win that if you're going to do what he did at 7 and 6, when you're at 5, you have to win, because your threat level is too high. There's nowhere to go down. You're just going out. And when Carla was going to be voted out, it was rainy one day, and she looked at me. She goes, "Gabler, are you an honest man?" And I go, "I try to be." And she goes, "Are they going for me tonight?" And I felt I owed it to her. You know the kind of game I played. I was very straightforward with people. Maybe, I just was like, yeah, it's going on you tonight, Carla. And she was like, okay, which is why we had that live tribal, and she fought kicking and screaming to go out at the end. But, she's an awesome person, great player, everything else. But that's why, me tipping people off, I mean, it's kind of dangerous to tip people off like that, because anything can happen. But I had enough relationships to where, even if, say, somebody that I was aligned with went home, I was also aligned with these people over here. So I had ways to go, even if it fractured. Like if Sammy would have played his shot in the dark and hit, I still believe I could have got to the end just a little differently than I did. If Cody would have kept his idol and stayed in, and maybe Carla went home that night, I would have had, I mean, it could have been me, Cody, and Jesse at the end, which my strategy at Final Tribal would have been those two guys probably battling against each other for ownership of their game.
Yeah.
me off to the side talking about my game and how I was also part of that, but I did my own thing. So I think, I had you have long days and nights out there and you have a lot of time to think. And I was always thinking about who I'd be sitting next to at the end and how could I beat them if I did get them, whoever it was at the end.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that constantly to where no matter who I got to, if I got to, I said this going in.
Yeah.
If I can get to the merge, I'll get to the end. And if I can get to the end, I will win.
Yeah.
Regardless of who I'm sitting next to.
Yeah. I mean, you did it. It
was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be such a crazy feeling to be like, man.
It still is. It's so weird. I mean, I'm a fan of Survivor. I love the show.
Yeah.
And to be sitting there, like to go to Survivor and like see my picture on some of the episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that doing on there? Why am I on there? It's so bizarre to have been on the show that I love because I love the show. It's my favorite show. To be able to play on it is such a blessing. To be able to do well on it, it's just incredible. And I mean, like I've got a lot of buddies like you do. And it's so funny. Like we'll be driving the car, they're looking at me and like, what are you doing? They're like, I can't believe you won Survivor. And I'm like, I can't either.
I know. Well, dude, that's the thing that a lot of people do is it happens every season. They're like, oh, this person should have won. This person should have won. Whoever wins should have won.
Of course.
It's how it is. Like there, I mean, and it happened with Jesse, I know, and I'm sure you heard of that all the time about like just how good of a dude Jesse seemed like he was.
Great
and
guy.
I get it. But if you don't stick the landing, you aren't the best person out there. Like it's just how it is. It's nothing against him, but but you stuck the landing. That's all it is. You
got to play a complete game, right? The whole game, I mean, look how many football games, right? Like that Tom Brady has stolen from other great players because he in the you give him the ball back with 3 minutes left. Watch out, Aaron Rodgers. Watch out. I mean, they'll stick the landing at the end. And did they not win the game? Well, no, they won. They won because Ben Roethlisberger. No, there's a minute left and he's got 80 yards to go. He can do it. He'll get down there. So does that ring count? Yeah, that ring counts. So and then I did get 7 out of 8 votes. So it's not.
Yeah.
It was pretty. And I got 0 against me. 0.
I know, which is there's 11 people I think that have done that out of ever. And that is, man,
that is crazy. I remember sitting there going,
wild.
I'm almost to the end. And no one has written my name down. I mean, I remember on my confessionals, right? Hiding in plain sight. I'm like sitting there going, how is it that I'm continuing to go down this path and I'm going to tribal again tonight and the considerations are X and Y and I'm not in there again, but I'm in the vote every single week. It's so crazy.
I know it's a perfect game. To not get any votes until the end and win is a perfect game.
That's what you want to do. I mean, that's really what you want to do. Yeah. And even James had an agreement early on with Cass where they had shook hands on day one. Mm-hmm. They were like, because the second place winner gets $100,000.
Yeah.
And they had a handshake deal where if you get to the end, if James gets to the end, Cass will give him a vote. And if James gets to the end, he'll give it to Cass. I'm not saying that he didn't also believe her being an awesome player.
Yeah,
she's worthy of the vote and everything. But I did have a relationship with James, a very good one. And I never voted against James the entire game. And I actually, when I had my immunity idol that I won, and it was the Ellie vote because it was James or Ellie. And James asked me, he said, hey, Gabler, I know you're immune because your team won immunity and you got to go to the merge fees. And, but I'm hearing my name. Can I have your idol? And I shook hands with James. I said, I'll give it to you. And then right before tribal council, I went back to him and I go, James, I can't give it to you because I'm going to, if I'm sitting next to Janine, I have to be able to show Janine that I still have it so that she doesn't play her idol for Ellie.
Yeah.
And she keeps it in her pocket. And I was sitting right next to Janine in the final, in the merge tribal, the Murgatory where Ellie went home. And I literally pull out my idol and show it to her. That just wasn't in the edit, and she saw it and she nodded, and I'm like, "It's okay, Gene. I'm not playing the idol. It's okay. You don't have to play yours for Ellie."
Yeah.
And because if you'll notice on that vote, the first two names were James, and James was dropping F-bombs down the end and shooting daggers at me because he was like, "Damn it, Gabler, you're." I'm like, "Trust me, bro. It's gonna be okay." And then Ellie went home, and then the rest kind of goes on. But me and him had a personal relationship. Because he did pharmaceutical sales for a while. So we had a medical relationship. He loves chess. I'm a huge chess player.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a cool guy. He's a great cook. Love James. And we had a good relationship strategically and personally. And our lives were interestingly similar on some levels. So, I potentially could have gotten 8 of 8. And that is the absolute perfect game, but I'll settle for 7 of 8 this go round. It's pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, God, dude. Well, before we go, I mean, I know we're running close on time. I just
Take
have a
your time,
few.
bud. We can go 10 minutes. We're good.
All right. So I have a few just like kind of quick questions that I was curious about. So I know, obviously, you're a metal fan, which got mentioned, which, dude, same. Me too. What was your first concert?
Oh, that's such a great question. I love this question.
Okay.
My very first concert ever. My dad got me tickets. I was 14 years old, just turned 14, 1984. And it was Ozzy Osbourne and this unknown band called Motley Crue opening for.
Oh, okay. So that tour,
Bark at the Moon, Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue tour. And it was at the Summit, which is now Joel Osteen's church, but that's where we were at the Summit.
Yeah, okay.
Houston.
So in Houston, yeah.
In fact, I still have, because I keep all my concert shirts, and my wife, I can't fit into it anymore because I was 14, but my wife wears it. She's got my Motley Crue shirt and my Ozzy shirt.
That's awesome, dude. That's a good first concert.
How about you? What's your first concert?
The Misfits.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah. And I went with my mom. We usually go to concerts, a lot of concerts together. So, yeah, Misfits was my first one. It was awesome. Opening band, not so much, but the Misfits.
Misfits are great.
Misfits are incredible.
Are you familiar with Wasp?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm a huge Wasp fan. Blackie Lawless is incredible.
The tour right now. I just saw them in Vegas about a couple months ago, and they're coming to Boise in August.
Yeah.
August 12th, I think. I'm going to that for sure. But they are putting on the best shows that they've ever done right now.
I mean, it is insane most of those guys just can't keep it up. And, understandable. It's not the easiest singing style. But, yeah, Blackie Lawless is such a good singer. Like now, just like then. I mean,
top of their game. If Wasp is coming near you, you should go. And they're on tour right now. I just saw them. It's 40 Years of Steel tour.
Yeah.
They're so good. I saw them in Vegas, and they were spectacular. And I'm going to see them again in Boise in a couple of months when they're here.
Yeah, no, I 100% would love to go see them. I have a long bucket list of bands that I want to see. What was the
live music?
Dude, me too. What was the last concert you went to?
The last concert I saw was Wasp. Wasp was the last one I saw. It was a couple months ago. Yep.
Okay, so that was the last one. Yeah.
I just saw it.
Yeah, mine was Rolling Stones. I went to go see them like 2 years ago in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Man. Oh, my God.
In fact, Mick Jagger, they were going to cancel that tour a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because Mick Jagger was diagnosed with critical aortic stenosis, which is where your aortic valve calcifies and it gets smaller and smaller and tighter.
Yeah.
And what we did was, and I'm not saying I did this, but they went in and they put a very small transcatheter heart valve inside him where they go in through. This is what I do though, but they go in. The patient's awake on the procedure. He went to Columbia, New York, and he had, instead of having a sternotomy where they open your chest, put you on bypass, and cut out the old valve and sew in a new valve, which is a great procedure. It's just invasive. They stick you in the groin. They run a wire up through the stenotic aortic valve, and then they bring that valve right there that's this big.
Yeah.
They crimp it down to where it's smaller than a pencil. There it is, smaller than that.
Okay.
It goes through your artery. It crosses the stenotic valve. They rapid pace the heart, and then they expand the transcatheter valve, crushing the native one to the wall. Take all the stuff out. That valve starts working right away. They were back on tour in 2 weeks.
That is oh my God. It's so crazy.
It's amazing.
I mean, what can be done is just mind-boggling to me. I mean,
it's magic. I mean, it's hopefully by the time we need one of these, it'll come in a beer.
Dude, exactly, man. All right, if you could see any band in their prime, doesn't matter who would it have been?
Oh, well, the Doors. I saw it. Yep, the Doors.
Dude, that's mine. Yeah.
If I could go to Whiskey A Go Go.
Yeah.
And
67,
dude, I'll be right there with you. That's if I could go travel back in time, I'd go see the Doors.
Yeah, man. Jim Morrison is like the guy for me. Like, I was obsessed with that dude.
Timeless music.
Yes. Yeah. That's mine too, man. And then last one, what is the band or artist that people would be the most surprised you listen to? As a metal fan, I mean, metal fans in general have a wide range of music tastes, probably more so than like country fans or rap fans. Like, it just works out that way.
But I do have a wide variety of music depending on what I feel like mood I'm in. I just got tickets, my wife and I, to go see Charlie Crockett.
Okay.
He's a newish artist,
yeah.
but he sings old school country. He's an African American guy. He's coming to Outlaw Field in Boise, Idaho in July, and I cannot wait to see Charlie Crockett. Karumbin is another band. They're out of Houston. They're kind of a jazz, funky, cool music. They're terrific. I also listen to, like a lot of like deep house music, believe it or not. Like,
nice. Yeah, break up the glow stick.
I like a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, same. Mine, I mean, I talk about a lot is ABBA.
He doesn't like ABBA. If you don't like ABBA, something's wrong with you.
I know, man. And recently, the Grateful Dead. I hated the Grateful Dead my entire life, and just in the last like 3 or 4 months, all I've listened to is the Grateful Dead live albums.
Bro, it's so funny you mentioned that. And I could go get my wife right now. Every Saturday morning when she walks into the kitchen, I have the Grateful Dead playing. It's like, Alexa, play Grateful Dead. It's just how I start the day. And I love them too. And I wasn't into them. Well, you know why I think I didn't like them early? Mm-hmm. I liked their name because it's a very metal name, the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, for sure.
And the album cover with the skull, I'm like, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And I put it on, and I'm like, what the heck is this? This is terrible. And I'm like, off, done. But I didn't really listen to it in the context of which it is meant to be. I mean, I was framing it as a metal, like the Grateful Dead. I'm going to put this on next to my Dio records and next in between my Metallica, and then you put Grateful Dead on. No, but there's a reason why they're a legendary band also. Yeah. And they're really good. And they're worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, wait, sorry. Last one. What was the food that you wanted the most when you were out there on the island? Like, was there a specific one that you're like, God, I would do anything right now for a
I had – it's so funny. People will say things to me like, oh, you were on the beach with all these, pretty ladies running around in bikinis. And I'm like, unless they were chicken wings, I was not even – they were invisible. Nobody even thinks about anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But I had recurring dreams on the island, like recurring dreams. I would wake up and I would dream that I was eating this big bowl of yellow chicken curry. And I was like scooping in mouthfuls of rice and the chicken and the everything. And I literally wake up and it's like, what's gone? It's like poof. So, I mean, I literally was subconsciously thinking about yellow chicken curry. But when you leave the island, whether you're voted off or you win at the end, the first thing they do after medical kind of checks you out is they give you a menu. You order whatever you want. You can get spaghetti and meatballs. You can get fried egg sandwich. You can get all of it. You can get like everything at once. Now your stomach's that big. So So I ordered my first meal off the island because on the boat when you're driving over to Ponderosa.
Right.
I got there. I ordered a bacon cheeseburger with fries and a double Jack Daniels and Coke.
God, that's the greatest meal on the planet.
That's you can't beat a really good bacon cheeseburger. Period. That's like one of my all-time favorite meals. And I remember I drank that, ordered another one. Cody was there. Cody's like, and I'm like, I got to go brush my teeth and shower because you remember you have not brushed your teeth in a month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to go. I'm going to come back. I'm like, too much adrenaline. I'm not going to bed. I'm coming right back here. We'll pick up this party. And we partied till 4:30 in the morning. We partied till 4:30 in the morning.
That's awesome.
James was there, Carla, Cass, Janine, everybody post-merge.
Yeah.
And I think what's special about 43 is it was such an amazing, cool group of people that are friends to this day. And we battled, but we took care of each other. We respect each other. And I was blessed. Things happen for a reason. And I made it onto, I was delayed a year, but I got on the right season with the right people. I'm so grateful to know each and every one of them and to count them as friends, family, really. And it's amazing. It's a very short experience, but it's a very profound experience.
Yeah. It's got to be the most life-changing thing.
It's a big, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I'll tell this to anybody that's listening that has a hankering to do it. I mean, life is short. Life is now. You got to live it and take a chance. ABBA song, take a chance. Take a chance on me, right? Take a chance on you and apply because you never know who they're looking for, what they're looking for. And like I applied as a Survivor fan, as a bucket list thing to do. And I wanted to have a video that was something for my friends and family to maybe get a few laughs out of and to enjoy.
Yeah.
That's it. And if it went farther, great. And mine did go farther. But the video, like if you Google Gabler Survivor, my audition video pops up. It's pretty funny. You'll see it. And it's like, you can tell I had fun with it. And if it stopped there, it stopped there. But, at least you got to go for it. I think in life, the only time I have regrets in my life are when I didn't go for it. When I don't go for things, that's usually the things that I will regret. It's better to, I like to just, life is short, life is now, you got to live it. That's my mantra, dude. So I just go for it, man.
Dude, that is awesome, man. Well, dude, this has been a blast. I mean, before we go, I mean, I know that like you're working with a company right now.
Mental Joe's
t-shirt. Yeah.
So this shirt, so obviously, we won Survivor season 43. We donated all of the money to veterans charities to help out with traumatic brain injury, PTS, and to curb the suicide epidemic in this country because it's out of control and we need to help out that 1% that protects the 99% of us. And while I never had the honor of serving, it is my honor to serve those who served us. And one of the companies that I'm going to be working with is this company called Mental Joe's. And here's one of their shirts. And they're working with veterans. It's a veteran organization, Mental Joe's, and they're using the proceeds from their apparel sales to help veterans struggling with traumatic brain injury, PTS, and to curb suicide prevention. So all of the proceeds from this go to that, and they're helping out with, they're in that community working with some psychedelics and other things to help out. That's why this bear has mushrooms in its eyes, but some cool shirts and they're cool. I don't know, man. I think it's some great stuff. It's helping a lot of people. It's a good cause. And I think the artwork is really funny.
It's awesome.
Cool. So, you can check them out if you want to. I get zero from it. I get zero. Everything goes to veterans. I really have a profound respect for the veteran community that takes care of us, and those that come home that aren't able to come all the way home. I think it is our obligation, our duty to help them as best we can to make America stronger and everything else. We owe it to them. We owe it to ourselves and all of our communities. And, God bless America. God bless our veterans. And just I'm doing what I can to promote mental health, not just for veterans, but everybody in general.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there that can be done.
Well, you've done a lot, man. I mean, that is to donate all your winnings. I mean, it's wild. It's awesome. I mean, but it's wild.
It was it was such a big experience. I went really deep into me. It was like, therapy for me in a lot of ways to be on that show. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. I met so many great friends, had some great experiences. I get to meet cool people like you and talk with your listeners and all that stuff. Yeah. And I'm 52. I've worked really hard in my career. And yeah, I've got a kid in college and another one that's going to be in college after that. My wife, we've got a house payment. Everybody could use money, but when you think about, even saving one life.
Yeah.
And we're going to save more than one life. We're going to save a lot of lives out there and help a lot of people. It's a pretty easy decision, actually. Pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Maybe one day I'll get in the position. I will donate $1 million.
I hope so, brother.
Hey, man, if American Idol finally works out for me, we'll make it happen. But dude, hey, man, this was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed speaking with you, man.
Likewise, the time goes by quick. You do a great job interviewing. It was so much fun, man. Cody. I really appreciate you.
Thank you a lot, man. Well, until next week, goodbye.